I have been recently watching the hell out of Solo Leveling Season 2, and the main character, if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do, shares something with our beloved Nekros, but something he doesn't share is today's build. We're gonna be nuking enemies in Steel Path, and also, at the end of the video, I have something incredibly special, so I highly recommend you stick around till the end. For now, stick around for the video. Nekros, in my opinion, is one of the coolest concept frames in the game. He is a Necromancer, he brings back the dead, he also gives you incredibly good loot, he has armor strip, and he utilizes weapons incredibly well. But there could be many changes to this Warframe that could make him even better. Nonetheless, today, the nuking build. First of all, with the passive and abilities. Before getting into the passive and abilities, Warframe's true endgame fashion frame. Look at the drip right there. You can see it up on screen what I'm using, and I love the combination of these colors on this deluxe skin. Honestly, his deluxe skin much better than his prime skin. Leave it in the comment section down below what you guys think. And now, for his passive, him and his companions regenerate 5 HP when an enemy dies within 10 meters. This is pretty good. I guess the numbers could get increased. 5 is pretty low, but what's also not much is Soul Punch, his first ability. You basically push an enemy backwards, it punches other enemies, it does impact damage, and that's basically it. We're going to be subsuming this with the Helminth ability. The second ability is very useful though. It is a Terrify. Fully armor strips enemies, it does make them run away from you, but you could mitigate that through other means, so it's not that big of an issue. We do have his third ability, Desecrate, incredibly good. This ability is active all of the time, and it gives enemies that have died additional chances of dropping loot. This is very nice. You want to have this active all of the time, and you want to have the spoil. The spoil makes it so it uses your health instead of your energy, which makes it incredibly good. A little bit of energy sustain right there. What's incredibly good is, well, not his fourth ability. It's going to be good at the end of the video, but his fourth ability is summon 7 enemies that you have recently killed. It will summon the strongest enemies, so keep that in mind. So that's very good, I guess. And they do have a damage bonus, shield, and health bonus. All of this in total, they're not very useful. Their AI is pretty dumb and they don't do a lot of damage. The augment mod for this ability is something that we're definitely going to be using, a Shield of Shadows. Per shadow, you will be gaining a certain percentage of damage reduction. In our case, that's 15% per enemy in 15 meters. Keeping in mind that you have to be within 50 meters to actually gain this bonus. Now, it maxes out at 95% damage reduction, which is incredibly good, but this makes it that our fourth ability is only for survivability. But the Helminth ability will help out a lot with the damage, and we're going to be subsuming it instead of our first ability. Of course, Soul Punch is useless, and it is going to be Breach Surge. Breach Surge from Wisp will allow us to CC enemies, making them basically blind, and the little sparks that come from them when you damage them will do a lot of damage, depending on the weapon that you use, of course, but the highest numbers that I've seen were around 24 million, which is something pretty good. And what's really good is something that all of you want to see already. It is the build. This is what the build looks like. In the aura slot, we have Brief or Respite. Now, we do have Prime Sure-Footed. I highly recommend you put it on here, but you could use the base variant or you can use Handspring. So I'm protecting myself here. You don't necessarily need to use it. You have Rolling Guard, and Rolling Guard is going to be incredibly good. This is going to be for survivability. The Spoil, Shield of Shadows, I've already mentioned. Equilibrium for additional energy, because Desecrate gives you health and energy as well. This is going to be really nice. Stretch for range, Umbral Intensify, and Blind Rage for extra power strength, and then Prime Continuity for a little bit of duration. We have Mote Augmented and Arcane Camisado. Now, Mote Augmented gives you power strength per enemy killed, and Arcane Camisado, attacks from your summons will give you an ability strength increase, a max of 60% on your next ability cast, and they also gain 20% movement speed. Now, this is actually really good because it does help out in situations where you actually want to move around. Because you have to be within 50 meters of your allies or your summons, you will be losing a lot of damage reduction if you run away from them. This movement speed helps out a lot, trust me. And the power strength is incredibly good because the more power strength you have, the more your first ability is going to have a damage multiplier, meaning that Breach Surge is going to be doing more and more damage. Nonetheless, we do have a second build for those people that maybe don't want to use Breach Surge. We're going to be using Nourish. I don't actually recommend using Nourish, but this is the build for people maybe that want to use it, to try it out. I don't find it as effective. It is good because of the viral damage and also the energy sustain, but Breach Surge just nukes a lot of the enemies. If the Warframe gets changed out, then Nourish would be very beneficial, but that's for a little bit later. For now, we want to cover the Archon Shards of choice. We do have 2 blue ones, 150 and 175 energy, totaling out at 125 energy. We do have 2 Tower Forge Reds, one giving us 15% power strength, the other is going to be giving us 15% duration. You don't really need to have the Tower Forged one, the base one's going to be good, and if you don't have them, your damage numbers are not going to be that big of a difference between mine and yours. And the last one, casting speed, 37.5%. This is very important. I trust me, use the Tower Forged one because his casting speed is very slow. What can help out is the focus school of choice. We have power transfer, which will give us casting speed, and then we have sling strength, which will give us additional power strength, which is incredibly good. But you don't have to use it. But this is one of the rare situations where I highly recommend you do. But other than all of that, you need to bring some weapons alongside with you. And in this situation, because his abilities don't really do any damage, you're going to be using your weapon a lot, so it's very important. One of the best weapons, the Torrid. You can see it up on screen, it just obliterates enemies. We have cold, corrosive, and we also have the build up on screen alongside the evolutions that I use. I highly recommend you use this weapon with Breach Surge Nekros. It is so good. You can clear out literal rooms. One of the other cool weapons is going to be the Boltor Prime Incarnate. There's a special place in my heart for the Boltor, and I really do love its Incarnate form. As you can see, this is the build evolutions as well. The other weapon that I highly recommend also is going to be the Bursting Prime Incarnate with Blast and Corrosive as well. I'm in love with this weapon. The Incarnate form is so good. It has a little bit of an issue at charging your Incarnate form because you have to aim for heads, but nonetheless, the build and the weapon is incredibly good. And one really good weapon to have that I forgot to mention is the Ripkas. Now, the Ripkas have a special mod called Amalgam Ripkas. Amalgam Ripkas gives you 100% gore chance. This will allow you to dismember more enemies, and all of those body parts will actually have another drop chance for additional loot, which is incredibly good. There's many cool other weapons. I use the Boar Prime Incarnate as well, but it's pretty much like a miniature turret, but this is what the build looks like, and also the evolutions now there. It is very dependent, but I highly recommend you use the Incarnate weapons. Most of them that I mentioned here are going to be incredibly good. I wouldn't recommend the Latron Incarnate, for example, because you already have armor strip, but a lot of cool weapons. But it is very important which one you choose, so pick wisely. Also, the companion of choice. We have Nautilus. Nautilus was pretty much always going to be here. Reinforced Bond, incredibly good, giving you additional fire rate. Of course, companion itself drags in enemies with Cordon, so just incredibly good because of Terrify, making them run away from you. And then we have Hellstrom. Hellstrom is going to be the weapon of choice for our Nautilus. This is going to allow us to do gas damage, and this meaning that since Deconstruct is going to proc on more enemies, considering gas makes a cloud and enemies walk into it, the more enemies affected, the more energy and health orbs, and the more equilibrium procs. And with that all out of the way, how are you actually supposed to play the Warframe? Well, pretty much just kill around 7 to 10 enemies, somewhere around there. Keeping in mind, in rare situations where your power strength goes up, you can summon more than 7 enemies. So those are the rare situations. I guess you could have seen it in the gameplay in the background at some point. Activating your 4th ability is very crucial because of the damage reduction. When you get your 4th up, then all you need to do is have Desecrate active, kill another couple of enemies. You're going to gain energy pretty quickly, and then activate Breach Surge, get your Incarnate form up, and kill enemies. And that's pretty much it. That's how you survive with Nekros. You can't move a lot because your allies or your summons don't move a lot at all. You can try to, but some of them are not going to teleport. You're going to lose out on some. And as I said, always keep it active. Always look on that number in your bottom right hand side, because if you don't, you're going to die really quick. And I cannot be held accountable. What I can be is someone who's going to help DE out in this situation. This is the special part of the video. How can we remake Nekros, and how has solo leveling helped me out with that? First of all, Soul Punch definitely needs to be changed out. We need to have a guarantee, first of all, added to this ability, that when I tag an enemy, it's gonna be guaranteed to spawn always as my 4th ability. For example, I tag an Eximus unit, no matter if it has Overguard or not, and it becomes my ally. What we're gonna be changing out is his 4th ability. First of all, we're gonna have the damage reduction on our base ability. So we're gonna have 95% damage reduction on Shadow of the Dead, so on the ability itself. And then the main summon is gonna be 14 smaller enemies that you have killed. What they're gonna do is they attack the enemy's health directly percentage-wise. So it's going to be a certain percentage. They're going to be knights. Let's say they're going to be knights. Now, DE could make them to make them, I guess, special in some sort of way to make custom summons for Nekros, which would be pretty cool. But they could keep the base enemies, but just make them do something. Make them melee-oriented so that you don't necessarily need to use the Ripkas for the gore chance. Let's say you gain the additional 100% gore chance on the actual base ability itself. When you armor ship those enemies, it's going to be much easier for your fourth ability or your minions to kill the enemy's health because they already have armor removed. And now, what are we supposed to do about Eximus units? Because in this state, you're not going to be able to summon Eximus units, only smaller units. Let's put in a new augment mod for this ability. Because of the augment mod, the Shield of Shadows, we're going to remove that. Shield of Shadows is removed because we put that on our base ability. Now we have the second one. This is going to allow us to summon a max amount of 7 enemies. We're going to remove the 100% gore chance, so it's going to be turned back into what it is at the moment. You're losing out on the additional loot. And what's going to happen here is, because your first ability now functions differently and you can guaranteed summon Eximus units, you're going to be summoning Eximus units, all of them having or a special character, which would be incredibly cool, and all of them would be incredibly good to have a special ability. So keep the Blast, the Jade unit, pretty much the same. Make the Leech Eximus, for example, suck in enemies' health directly, so when you armor ship them, and make the damage actually something that does really good damage, and make the AoE a little bit better, which would be pretty good. The Blast unit could get, for example, a Fireball that it could launch, which could be pretty cool, you know, a little bit of AoE, or make, for example, one certain enemy explode and then do another AoE, because at the moment, your fourth ability is only here for damage reduction, and that's basically it. Making it something that's hindering you more than it's actually helping you out, because you always have to stay near them, and they're pretty much useless. Make, for example, the Eximus that steals your energy, I actually forgot what it's actually called, but make him, for example, cast, if it's your summon, make it cast, for example, Darkness on enemies, which makes them not run away from your Terrify, which is like a cool bonus if you were able to get yourself an Eximus unit and able to kill it. Then, if, for example, you could get him as a summon, which could do that, synergize a little bit with your abilities a little bit better. You can make the Eximus units pretty special, but what I'm trying to say is trying to make his fourth ability useful is going to make this Warframe much more exciting. At the moment, it's pretty much a gun and sword of run. With Breach Surge, you can nuke a lot of enemies, but Breach Surge is another Warframe's ability. I would like that base Warframes stay as they are. That's pretty much it. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed. I'm really interested in what you guys have to say in the comments down below on the rework and on the build itself. I actually really like the build. The nuking is incredibly good. It's incredibly fun to play. You cast a lot of abilities. You're active, but you're hindered by your fourth. What do you think of the rework? What do you think of all of that? Put some comments down below. Love all of you. Also, subscribe. We're at 19K. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I love you. Let's reach 20K by, let's say, April. That's going to be pretty cool. Let's hit that bell icon as well. Love you. See you. Bye.